Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. For this video, we'll be going over the 1 hour of Lago Maggiore endurance race, which is part of the Human Comedy Mission Challenge series in Gran Turismo 7. For this video, I'll be using the Mazda RX Vision GT3 as it is a really good car when it comes to fuel and tire management. And when it comes to Lago Maggiore, it has multiple high-speed and medium-speed corners, which is where the RX Vision excels at. So we'll go ahead and get started right away with the guide. First things first, we need to look at the race details. So this is a 60-minute race at Lago Maggiore with the Group 3 cars, so you'll be doing anywhere from 30 to 31 laps. We are using the racing medium and hard tires, and this is an open strategy race, so you can do any sort of strategy that you like. Fuel and tire are ×3, but one thing that the game doesn't tell you is that the refuel rate for this race is at a slow 3 liters per second, which is actually going to make this race a fuel saving race. BOP is on and tuning is disabled. And I do want to quickly show what the setup of the car looks like. So this is the default setup except with BOP or mid-speed BOP turned on. And before I go on, this video is accurate as of version 1.25, in other words, the October 2022 update. I have the AI set to hard, and this shouldn't affect the mission challenges, which is where the human comedy endurance races are at, but I've heard reports where the AI are even harder if they're set to easy or normal. I personally haven't seen this happen to me yet, but I'm going to leave the AI set to hard just for the sake of it. If you're not familiar with Lago Maggiore, I highly suggest going to its circuit experience. So go to World Circuits, go into Europe, and Lago Maggiore should be around the center of the map. So there goes center of the map. Try to go for gold medals through all the sectors in the final one lap attack so you can get a good idea about how the track flows and how to make the most out of the track in the car. I'll also do a lap guide towards the end of the video if you're interested in that. In terms of strategy, I'm going to go for a 2-stop with the racing medium tires. So I'm going to be pitting every 11 laps. And I'm going to be fuel saving along the way so I can spend less time refueling, because don't forget the refuel rate is 3 liters per second. So it's really slow and you'll definitely feel that when you go to the pit stops. So let's go ahead and get started with the race. So once again, 1 hour race, so you're doing around 30 to 31 laps. The moment the race starts, you want to try to start the fuel save almost right away. So the way that you'll be fuel saving is you're going to be shifting when the shift bar on the bottom of the screen is around halfway full. So by doing this, I'll be able to save some fuel throughout my stint, spend less time refueling of course, and luckily with the Mazda RX Vision, you don't lose too much pace when you do the fuel saving normally by short shifting. I'm not really going to adjust the fuel mapping on the bottom right hand corner of the screen. I only adjust it once ever throughout this entire race, but for the most part, I'm going to leave it at 1 for the entire race. In terms of the AI cars, you want to be a little aggressive when you try to get past them, because they sometimes go really slow through some parts of the track, especially the S's right here. You can abuse the track limits as long as 2 wheels are on the red and white curves. It's fair game. The AI cars go really slow through there, so you can just fly through there, take advantage of the RX Vision's great handling on the high-speed corners and just get past them. And you kind of want to be a little aggressive with the AI cars, because sometimes they are aggressive to each other and sometimes they are aggressive to you. So just try to get past them as quickly as possible and get away from them as fast as you can, because the last thing you want to do is to approach a corner. So let's say turn 1, and one of the AI cars decides that it is a great time to punch you out of the track. I've heard of these things happen. I've actually seen a couple of moments happen like that on Reddit. So you want to try to get away from them as quickly as possible. And I'll actually show one of these moments. So this was from another session. So the BMW in front is going to kind of just push the Porsche out of the way, so they're going to take each other out. So that's something that you need to be really careful about, especially on some of the sharper turns. So turn 1, for example, the AI cars can sometimes do really stupid things, and the last thing you want to do is be right in front of them to the point where they take you out in the process. Luckily in this run, I didn't see any of those shenanigans happen. The AI cars were a bit cleaner this time, but they do fight it out at times. So if the AI cars start to fight it out between each other, then they're going to slow each other down, and that's going to make it a bit easier for you to potentially catch up to them and get past them. Again, I know I've said this about 100 times at this point. Try to get past them as quickly as possible, because the last thing you want to do is get held up so much by these AI cars to the point where you lose a lot of time, and that could potentially cost you the race. And just be aware that I am still shifting when the bar is around halfway full, because I'm trying to save as much fuel as possible so I don't have to spend about 800,000 years at the pit stop. And again, the AI cars, sometimes they do fight it out to the point where they slow each other down a lot. If they do that, just try to zip past them. Sometimes it's a bit easier said than done as the BMW gets in the way, but either way, just try to get past them as quickly as you can. Now, the Toyota Supra in front is on the racing medium tires, and he has broken away a bit, but I'm just going to keep driving normally the way that I'm driving, so shifting when the bar is halfway full, and just try to maintain consistent lap times. This will be easier to do once you're kind of all alone, so there's no AI cars that you have to deal with, and consistency is extremely important for this 1 hour race, as you want to make sure that your tires last the entire stint, and you want to also have a good idea about how many laps left you have when it comes to the fuel situation. If your pace is all over the place, then it's going to be harder to find out for those two things. Now I'm going to skip forward towards the middle of lap 4, because this is where I finally catch up to the Supra in first place. So again, just really cheesing it through the S's as the curbs are still part of the track limits. And just like that, I was able to easily catch up to the Supra in front. And I'm still going to be aggressive with this car, so I'm just going to try to get past him as quickly as possible. But the Supra is going to hang on in the outside, so he's going to retain the first place, but he's going to slow down at a spot where you really shouldn't slow down. So the S is right here. It kind of slows down right there for some reason, whereas normally you can just take it flat out without any issue. And just like that, I was able to pass him because he was going slow in places where you shouldn't have to slow down. And now that I have no one in front of me, I can just continue to drive at a consistent pace, shifting when the bar is halfway full to try to make the fuel last as long as I can. In terms of the tire wear, so the racing medium tires, they should last you at least 10 laps, especially with this newer tire wear update that happened in version 1.25. It should be doable to make the racing medium tires last at least 10 laps. So for example, at the end of lap 11, which is my in lap, my tires are still in pretty good shape. I could go a little bit further to pit in at the end of lap 12, 13, 14, or even 15 if I take really good care of the tires, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to stick with the 2-stop and just pit at the end of lap 11. So we're going to go towards the left side of the track just after the final turn and bring ourselves into the pit stop. So I'm going to go ahead and get a new set of racing medium tires, and because I'm going to be pitting every 11 laps, I'm going to refuel until the cruising range reaches 11.0 laps, or at least just over it. So I have 39% of fuel left, so I have been doing good when it comes to the fuel saving. Don't forget that refuel rate is 3 liters per second, so the refuel rate is extremely slow. So refuel to 11.2 laps, and this is just enough for me to be able to complete 11 laps if I keep my current driving style. So if I were to start to push, I would need to refuel even more to cover that. But because I plan to drive the same exact way, shifting when the bar is halfway full, I know that I'll be safe when it comes to the fuel situation, and I'll be pitting after 11 laps. Do be aware that at some point you will start to come across lap traffic, so you Once again, want to try to get around them as quickly as possible because you don't want to get held up by them. They do slow down a bit for you, but they still get in the way. They kind of take up the racing line, so they don't necessarily get out of the way, especially if you're in an awkward spot like the first couple of turns or the S's. They don't really get out of the way, so it is really easy to get held up by them. So just try to get past them as quickly as you can, as carefully as you can, especially if you're in one of those awkward areas. So once again, like the first couple of turns or the S's here in sector 2, if they're in the way, then you might need to wait a little bit and then get past them when it's safe to do so. The last thing you want to do is to get way too impatient and end up getting punted off by the lapped AI cars and ruin your own race. So skipping over towards the end of lap 22, my lap times have been pretty consistent so far, even poking into the 154 lap times a few times as my car is a bit lighter so it can go a bit faster, or getting held up a bit because of the AI cars like on lap number 19. And because when I did my first pit stop I gave myself 11 laps worth of fuel, I have just enough fuel to be able to cover 11 laps, so I'm pretty much just doing just fine pitting in at the end of lap 22, and I got my 11 lap stint done. Now do be aware that at this point there's about 17 minutes left in the race, so I'm going to get my final set of racing medium tires, but this time I'm going to refuel until the cruising range says 9 laps because I'm going to be doing 31 laps and the race should be over by the end of lap 31 for me, so I'm going to refuel up to there, and it's going to take a while because once again the refuel rate is 3 liters per second, so fuel saving is extremely important. So right here, 9 laps that I'll have for the cruising range, and I'm just going to drive the same exact way, shifting when the bar is halfway full. That way I know I'll have just enough fuel to be able to complete the race. And in a moment I'm going to show the lap guide for my fastest lap from this race, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with that. So this was during lap 25, this is where I got my fastest lap. So bring yourself towards the right side of the track and you're braking just after you pass the 100 meter board or just as the pit wall on the left ends. You want to brake as much as you can in a straight line. Just after the 50 meter board, you slowly start to turn in and ease off of the brakes. Brake before the white area on the right ends, and you can go pretty deep into the hairpin, taking advantage of the red and white curbs. I shift down to first gear for a bit more rotation, but I exit on second gear. I'm still fuel saving by shifting halfway, a little bit of throttle control through turn 3. Brake before you reach the black sign that is on the left, so this is the very first sign that we're talking about. I go down to second gear for a bit more rotation, but exit on third gear for a bit more control of the car coming out of the turn. Overtake that car. Brake before the gray curb on the left end, so you want to be at full braking power for a very short moment, but do lots of trail braking, so you're controlling your braking power as you're slowly turning in. Try to go for a late apex, so where the orange sausage curb ends, and carefully get on the throttle. Then bring yourself towards the right side of the track and you're braking just after the curb on the right starts. So you're using around 50% braking power and you want to take advantage of the curbs. So the red and white curbs are part of track limits, so you can really take advantage of them. It is possible to exit the S's flat out, but you might need to do a little bit of a lift off of a throttle. Then bring yourself towards the left side of the track. Look for the digital flag that is on the left side of the track, so just before the 50 meter board. Brake just as you're about to reach it, so full braking power. You can also take advantage of the curbs at the big binky boy. Exit on third gear, still shifting halfway, and you can take the S's right here flat out, so no problems here. The Mazda RX Vision handles the S's really well. Brake before the 50 meter board, so brake right around here, so full braking power for a short moment. Lots of trail braking, so easing off of the brakes as you're turning in. little bit of braking just as a curb on the left end, so you're kind of just fine tuning the car's direction and speed, so nothing too crazy going on through here. Then bring yourself towards the right side of the track and you're braking before the 50-meter board. This is also another turn where you can take advantage of the track limits at the inside part of the turn, and you'll see me do that right now. Take advantage of the curves that's still within track limits. And that is it for the lap guide. Able to get a 154.1, but do be aware that I had a little bit less than half a tank's worth of fuel, and this was with fresh tires, so the car was able to go a little bit faster compared to if it had worn tires or if it had more fuel. So we're going to skip an order towards the middle of lap 31, so the timer is just about to hit 0. You could wait it out at the end of lap 30 for the timer to hit 0 and then cross the finish line, but that's only if you have a really big gap in between yourself and the car in second place. Me personally, I'd rather not take that chance and just do another lap anyways, as in this race I was more than guaranteed to get the win if I did 31 laps, so I don't have to worry about the car in second place. And shifting halfway, still doing my fuel saving, I had just enough fuel to be able to finish the race, as I only did 9 laps for this stint. So there we go, first place finish after 31 laps. My total time for this race was 1 hour and 47 seconds. So as of Gran Turismo 7 version 1.25, the Mazda RX Vision in its current BOP is in a pretty good state. It also helps that the track that we're on, so Lago Maggiore, is one of those tracks where the RX Vision is really good at due to how it handles the medium and high speed corners. It's really good at fuel saving, it's really good when it comes to tire management, so it has a lot of good things going for it, which makes it a really good choice for the 1 hour of Lago Maggiore race. But that is going to be it for this video. Hopefully this guide helped you out a bit, and if you like this video, you can press the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I do have a membership program thing that you can check out down below if you want to further support this channel. And a quick shout out to the channel members. I just want to give you guys an extra thank you for the awesome support. But that's all for me. This is Mr. MCA, the world's most okay player, and I'll see you in the next video.